Welcome to another live stream, Legends. Well, guys, I mean, we've seen Bitcoin and the rest of the market correct a little bit today. Is it time to panic? Is this a very healthy correction? I mean, I myself at this point, I am still very bullish on the trend. Yes, it's very possible we see this pullback. And guys, those of you who were actually in my public live stream yesterday will know that I was actually targeting shorting this. I ended up setting my stop loss slightly too tight. Unfortunately, that was 100% user error. The setup absolutely played out. I should have been laddering shorts into this box rather than setting my stop loss just too tight. Again, I am not immune to those emotions, and at all-time highs, I just, yeah, it got the best of me. Whatever. That was a small position, and it was just a hedge. It was an insurance play more than anything to catch a move like this. So the idea was there. Unfortunately, the execution was off, and that is all that matters at the end of the day. But what also does matter, I would say, is that this wasn't all that crazy of a move, right? This is just a classic swing fail where we broke structure to the upside, and then we pull back to go retest support again. Guys, if this was a 5-minute chart, this is literally my requirement to enter a long pullback, right? Would be something like this where we break structure and then we pull back, because that would be, we got our high, we have our higher high, and we have our confirmed higher low, the lowest point between the two. So if we pull a fib like this, if this was a 5-minute chart, this is totally the type of setup that I look for, right? If I was more of a swing trader and trading on lower leverage, this is the kind of position that I would be looking to ladder into, only because we got this break and this liquidity grab, this higher high right there. It's very normal for market structure to break and then retrace. That's more healthy than anything. Just absolutely breaking straight up, that you're not building that structure in that case, and it's harder to sustain that. So doing this is actually more healthy as long as we keep our higher low, right? I really don't want to see us lose that 111.8 thousand US dollars approximately. I would even give it a little wiggle room for, again, some sort of a swing fail, right? It's very possible that we would come all the way down towards closer to 110,000, right? That's approximately 109.8 thousand. If we lose that, that's where I start to have concerns on the trend and think we're going significantly lower. And in that case, I mean, we would have to pull a new fib basically, right? Pulling from more the lows of our previous range, something like that, and hope we find support at around 104 to 101,000. But at this point, the structure is still this for me. I'm not as interested in this support down here anymore, just because we had this structure break here, right? That bumps up my higher low significantly. And before, yeah, we could have assumed this was a higher low, but we could have assumed this was a higher low. We could have assumed this was a higher low. This was a higher low, but when we lost that, we started this little downtrend, right? But yeah, basically this is where we actually confirmed that this is a confirmed higher low on the macro time frame, right? We're looking at the 4-hour chart. Now, normally I would say the 4-hour chart is more of a mid time frame, but it actually lines up perfectly with the same fib on the weekly, right? It's the exact same structure, because here's where we had our high, and even though it's just a wick, it's a swing fail at this point, but we still have that higher high, and the lowest point between the two is right there. So the weekly and the 4-hour actually have matching structure right now as it stands. I would feel a lot better about this if the weekly candle can close above our previous weekly candles, just to, continue that staircase higher. But as it stands right now, as long as we're holding this higher low, like I said, around 111.8K, even all the way down to 110K, as long as we're holding above that, things on the larger time frames still look very good, right? So yeah, this is just a classic bearish swing fail. Totally fine. At this point, I feel like, you know what, I missed that beautiful short opportunity, even though I didn't even miss it. I just fucked it up. Such is life as a trader. But this wasn't unexpected. I just played it poorly. And at this point, I wouldn't really want to play the short again. I don't really want to look at this all too closely for a structure break like that. It is very possible that that would play out and we would see some resistance up there. It would be also be a retest of this resistance back here, right? So there is a lot of confluence here back up around 123,000. But again, just the fact that if we're constantly testing all-time highs like this and the market is still going to recover nicely, like I said, as long as we don't lose the actual macro support, the actual long-term trend, right? As long as we don't lose that, I don't want to get too bearish. If that happens, I have to face reality, and there is some concerns at that point. But as it stands right now, not so much. Looking at the shorter time frames, guys, I did actually enter on a swing fail long earlier today. You can see it mapped out here. I wasn't feeling very good about this 786, 886 because, guys, this actually isn't a Stuber fib setup, okay? I know it looks like one, and maybe it played out the same, right? The same fibs were respected. We never did lose the 115. But there was some added risk here because we never actually broke above a lower high on the trend. And what I mean by that is this would have been our low. This was our next lower low. That means this was the lower high on the trend, right? And we never broke above that. We never broke below this. So that's all there was, right? That's our structure, right? After we don't change the structure until we actually lose that. So even here when we got this wick, that changed it and it dropped our lower high to this level, right? It was up here. After we got this wick down here, that changes this. That's now my lower high, the highest point between the two. And then, so basically at that point, over here, we ended up breaking this lower high, right? Because we had this low, this lower low, lower high. Here we broke it, and then notice what happens after that. After that, we end up getting a pullback to the 886 pretty much perfectly, and then take off from there. But that's not the setup I was looking for, right? I looked for the swing fail, and that's just basically the reason why I never laddered into this as a classic Stuber Stuber long, is just because it had added risk because there was no structure broken favoring that setup yet. But when we got this and we got our swing fail, right, we just got our wicks below this support here and into that 115 fib pocket. That's where I figured, it looks like we're starting to form some support here. That's why I took a long in this area, because it was a swing fail. It's a very tight invalidation, right? My invalidation was basically, I think it's at 116,966. So I was just a little bit below 117K, just giving a little bit of extra wiggle room and close to a nice round number, right? So I gave some extra wiggle room there, and we filled that swing fail pocket absolutely perfectly. But then we started finding support. At this point, I'm not willing to lose on this position anymore. I really don't want to see us testing back into support that many times. At this point, I just actually, before starting this stream, I bumped half my stop loss to just below the 786, just because I don't really want to lose that level anymore. And then the rest at break even. And at that point, it's possible we're just going to continue the downtrend. So either that, or I'm going to wait for some indicators to start lining up, right? If I can get the trend master, even though we have a buy signal right now, which is nice that it's forming right around that 786, right? Just some additional confluence, but being it's obviously a significantly lower buy signal, that is still at this point signaling a potential downtrend, the way I use the trend master indicator, right? So what I would love to see is basically see the price do one of these where we climb up higher, get a sell signal, and then print a higher buy signal. That would be a great sign of strength to me. And the trend master would be verifying that it looks like, we're starting to set higher lows at that point, and the indicator is giving those buy signals quicker on the retracements, right? Just showing that there's extra strength there. So if that happens, I would also be looking to add to my position at this point, if anything. But if I get stopped out before that, then that's what I'll be looking for to get back in the game, kind of a thing. But yeah, so far, structure doing structure things. Honestly, I just feel like this price action, nothing all that crazy has been happening. Aside from, yeah, it's exciting that we broke all-time highs again, but structure is still working like structure, even on the 5-minute guys here. And again, I know I love micro analyzing, but look how well it even worked at calling the top here. We had a high, slightly higher high. That gives this as our higher low. A slightly higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. We end up losing that higher low, and instantly that's what ended it, right? That's where we started retracing. So even on the 5-minute and very micro structure like that, I understand it's very micro analyzing, but just to show you how accurate and how predictable market structure actually works, it's crazy to see how well it works like that. And obviously not every time, especially on shorter time frames, it's going to flip-flop quite often. But so often there's those early warning signs, especially if if I'm in a position. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll go down a time frame, right? If I'm entering on a 5-minute, sometimes I'll go to the 1-minute, and if we start losing structure on the 1-minute, then at that point I'm considering taking some profits, removing some risk, right? So just a few different ways of looking at that. But yeah, so far, love to see that we're holding support from this swing fail so far. Obviously anything can happen. Solana also got into a bit of a Stuber long. This one actually is a Stuber long because we had that structure, right? We had this low, lower low. This was our lower high, and we broke it. And again, just like Bitcoin's all-time highs, right? We got a wick above, just slightly broke above, and then we pulled back. It's very natural, and that's the whole idea behind a Stuber fib setup. So that's what happened on Solana. It never, even though it was so close to the same thing on Bitcoin, it wasn't quite, at least on the BloFin chart where I'm trading. So yeah, that's why I'm in that guy there. Ethereum, we also had a beautiful one, and I never did take a long on this. I don't know why I didn't, because it would have hit 3 entries beautifully, right? We have our 786, 886. The one wouldn't have hit my 4th entry, but the average entry would be somewhere around the 886 at that point, and we'd be well on our way to the first target. But I am actually not in that. I'm just pointing it out. I am still in my old Ethereum trade from, I think, 3 days ago now, from 42.85 and 25 cents is my average entry on my only Ethereum position, and I only have about 10% of this position left at this point. I've taken profits on most of that, but I would love to get into some new Ethereum positions as well, because guys, I really have a feeling that Ethereum is going to blast all-time highs in the near future. Let me just bring up an older Ethereum chart with more price history. That would be this guy right here. And look at that on the daily, you guys. We got so close to all-time highs yesterday, like literally less than $100 away. So that is huge, right? Ethereum showing some significant strength. I wish that it would have got slightly higher, but at this point, I wouldn't be surprised even if we pull back that we end up finding support on the bearish 786, if you want to look at it that way. Not saying it's bearish, but just if we came back down to this level, would not be surprised to see that flip into support, just because it's been such strong resistance on the way up. And guys, this is something I believe I talked about it last week in my stream, that even though Ethereum was starting to get to resistance and macro resistance, I wasn't as concerned about it this time because we have tested the 786 so many times, right? We tested it once here, it played out, right? We hit the first target. Test again here, hit the first target. Test again here, hit the first 2 targets. This one here got very close, never ended up hitting the target, but that's the 4th time we're testing that 786. And so I never really thought that it would end up holding again, just because we're tapping away at it so much. Another thing that was leading me to believe that Bitcoin, or that Ethereum rather, was going to break out was the Bollinger Bands. So this is something I talked about last week when we were trading somewhere right in this little bull flag area, is I had mentioned that these Bollinger Bands were actually spreading apart, just signaling that there was volatility incoming. After that, we end up getting a daily candle closes above the top of that range, so signaling that the direction is to the upside, right? I believe it was, yeah, the trend master was also holding this buy trend here. So everything was kind of lining up that I really did believe that we were going to break out, and we did, right? Ethereum ended up basically from last week's stream, I believe. Maybe that was one of my public ones, actually. I can't remember. But either way, from that breakout, Ethereum went another 13%, right? And with some leverage, I mean, there was some beautiful bullish scalps for a day trader like myself. There was some beautiful positions there. I was trading the shit out of Ethereum the last week or so. I really wasn't even watching Bitcoin, to be honest. I was just so interested in playing Ethereum for so many reasons, right? Actually, let me just bring up one more chart here. I meant to look at the Bitcoin dominance as well before looking at the altcoins, but same thing, right? I've been talking about this, how the fact that Bitcoin, the fact that Bitcoin is not only holding well, but it hit all-time highs yesterday while dominance is dropping off a cliff. I mean, Bitcoin is going to new highs without even trying. The market isn't even focused on it, and it's still climbing. So the fact that that's happening with altcoin dominance or Bitcoin dominance dropping, I mean, altcoins, even though long-term, guys, I'm way more of a Bitcoin bull than altcoins. But at this phase of the cycle, where we're at the ending phase of the cycle, to my belief anyways, altcoins just always do well at that phase of the cycle. That's kind of when Bitcoin has proven itself healthy, and then everyone starts getting really greedy as fuck at the end of the cycle, and that's where you start to see those profits diversifying into riskier assets, right? That's basically what's happening here. It's not that people are panic selling Bitcoin by any means. Bitcoin is doing just fine. It's just to show the strength of the market. This is a huge divergence to have, and the fact that we dropped that diagonal line perfectly. If I zoom out to the weekly, the one that we were just testing from the underside on the 4 hour, this is I mean, I know not everybody likes diagonal trend lines. I really like them if they're pinpoint to my wicks. That's just how I like looking at them. And then just zooming in, seeing that it is being respected from the other side as well at this point. Sure, it's very possible we end up getting back above it, and then sure, maybe the focus is on Bitcoin for a while and we see the market see a little bit of a bigger correction because people are getting more into the safer side of things again for the time being, right? But if this support does end up like, even look how accurate this was on the 4 hour, right? We tested it absolutely perfectly, and now testing it perfectly from the other side. If this does end up rejecting us, that is a huge green light for altcoins to go absolutely nuts. And let's just take a look at what size of move this could be if it's going to be more of a macro move, because guys, look where the Bitcoin dominance topped out. To nobody's surprise, right at the 786, right? Absolutely perfectly there. So if this is going to play out as a macro time frame range, I mean, this Bitcoin dominance, I would expect it to come down to at least this 0.5 fib down here, which would be about 56.25% for Bitcoin dominance. And, if the market's going to remain greedy, I could see us getting all the way down towards about 46% of Bitcoin dominance. In which case, again, there is going to be so much money to be made in altcoins if that's happening, right? So yeah, I just think that, yeah, obviously if Bitcoin's pulling back, the altcoins are probably going to pull back a little more aggressively. But at this point, it's more so looking for those long setups when you get those entries on those pullbacks. I don't care about missing shorts right now, but what I do care about is catching longs as it starts trending to the upside again. I'll start getting aggressive again, because I think last week there was something like, I think out of 10 Stuber fibs that I pulled on that I played on the 5 minute, I think I was 9 out of 10 on the 5 minute until we broke that trend yesterday. Then I lost, or then there was another one that I lost last night. But such is life, right? It was a beautiful trend. It was playing out fantastic. I'm hoping that we start seeing those higher printing buy signals on this trend, but we'll see what happens, right? As I mentioned, half my, or sorry, not Ethereum, Bitcoin is what I thought I was looking at here. If Bitcoin gets up to this 214, I'm definitely closing half of my position. As we start testing up here, I might end up closing a quarter of my position during this stream yet. We'll see. That's kind of what I'm looking for. But yeah, for Ethereum, I would love to see us start printing those higher buy signals. And also notice Ethereum. Oh, that's an old fib. That is actually playing out right now. Let's just see. So the ALGO master actually did print out this hold on a second. I don't agree with this fib. That's weird. That's just a weird way to pull it. It's weird that they, oh, it must be, no, it's weird that they pulled it from here to this level and totally ignored this. I don't know. Well, whatever, that auto fib. That's why I also say that rather than relying on the ALGO master auto Stuber fibs, it's still important if you're going to be trading Stuber fibs that you should know how they work, because seeing something like this, it's just not valid to me right now. Although the level did hold as support, so maybe I shouldn't say that. But yeah, what I would really like to see is, like I said, the trend master start printing higher trending buy signals. As that was happening on the previous trend here, I mean, it was just so obvious how many higher buy signals we were getting, and it was just making it so easy to play this trend, right? Buy, slightly higher, buy. They were all higher. Buy. And I actually mentioned last night in my private Telegram, I had mentioned, just because I unfortunately Discord still isn't working on my mobile, but so on Telegram I had posted about this, and this was about where I was going to bed. We were climbing somewhere up here, and I said basically if Ethereum is going to remain in this strong uptrend, I wouldn't want to lose that higher buy signal, right? Because on the way up, we never did. We kept printing higher buy signals, and we never lost those pivot levels, right? So it was an obvious trend. And as soon as we did break that, so it actually, we got one more higher one there, technically, overnight. But as soon as we ended up losing that trend, look what happened, right? We got a slightly lower buy signal, lower sell, and then we dropped off a cliff, right? That's so often using the trend master like that. I love looking at it for spotting potential reversals like that, right? It's just a strong confluence to have, or at least some sort of a warning, right? Just to take some profits or do whatever you got to do. So love using the indicator for that. But yeah, I want to see that start printing to the upside again. In that case, I'm going to start longing the shit out of Ethereum again. Solana, looks like we just hit my first take profit. Perfect. Bitcoin, I am going to set a quarter. Since I wasn't playing this as a Stuber, I never actually preset an order here, but I am going to split up my 214 order into two, and I'm going to take quarter profits up here at about basically 118.5k. I'll just front run it a little bit. Basically where we are. I should just, yeah, whatever. See what happens there. But yeah, guys, everything, it's still, even though we pulled back yesterday, I know it's probably spooked a lot of people. People are so scared that they're going to miss the end of the cycle. Everyone's scared that they're going to take profits, or that they won't take profits again, just like last cycle kind of a thing. So you're going to see a lot of people panicking really quick. But honestly, I mean, I mentioned it before, just the fact that, you know, I was a little bit bearish back here. I'll fully admit that, but it was just because we were trading at resistance. But as I mentioned, if we break the 115, I mean, that invalidates that bearish setup. And sure, we could still form a new one, but at that point, that was my huge green light, right? My red flags were lifted and I got insanely bullish once again. And here we are, trading the shit out of Ethereum lately. But yeah, again, guys, as long as Bitcoin can stay above 112, I prefer above 112, but really could go down to around 110k. As long as we stay above that, I think the long-term trend is still absolutely beautiful. Ethereum, I also wanted to look at the weekly because we have that same thing with the Bollinger Bands on the weekly time frame, you guys. Notice that the volatility bands opening up, right? Just signaling that there's incoming volatility. And again, we started breaking weekly candles closing above that band, a huge breakout signal, right? So again, just another reason why I am still bullish on Ethereum. Obviously, maybe that move already played out. It's not like it was a bad move from that daily close. We already pumped 30%, so maybe that's it. But I have a feeling we're going further. Time will tell. The market doesn't give a shit about my opinion or my feelings. We just have to see what happens. Hype. I did mention I would look at hype. So, I mean, we did get rejected basically in the Stuber fib, right? We went slightly higher than the 886, saw a bit of a rejection. We already saw a rejection once off the 786, but that move technically did play out because it hit the first target. So yeah, I mean, it's important to note that we are still technically, we do have resistance here, right? That's all there is to it. That's the top of the range there, but it's not that things necessarily look bad, right? We obviously broke that downtrend, so we're just kind of stuck in a range right now. Until we break either this high or this low, this is the range that we have currently mapped out. So that would be basically the start of resistance there. And if I was looking for support, I would be looking for something like this, which would take hype down to about $38.50 to $37.20 approximately, if it's going to test that Stuber fib. Still not even necessarily invalidated if we drop a little bit lower, right? Unless we lose basically $33.50. That's where I would start to have a little bit of concerns there. Actually, honestly, guys, I still wouldn't be that concerned, because if we zoom out further, we could, I would argue that we could pull a fib like this, and then we just have more support below. So one thing that's worth mentioning there is hype, as well as most of the market, has done a fantastic job actually creating support. And I know a lot of people are annoyed and calling for, oh, market manipulation this, market manipulation that, they're holding the price down. Every market swing is market manipulation. Get over it. That's how market makers work. That's what makes trading easy. If you're saying you're getting wrecked because of manipulation, you just don't read the charts well. That's, I'm sorry to say it, but that's kind of how it is. But a lot of people like to look for that excuse that, oh, it's market manipulation. Yet if it goes straight up with no hesitation, it is totally organic, right? It's, oh yeah, this is beautiful, this is organic, and it does the exact opposite in the other direction. I don't like this anymore, it's manipulation, right? So just understand every swing is some sort of market manipulation, because there's sell walls and there's buy walls. That's basically what creates charts. Speaking of manipulation, I mean, that's something that I saw on social media today, is people are saying, oh, it's straight up market manipulation because the US Treasury is now saying that they're not going to be buying Bitcoin and that we were lied to. Guys, the government has lied so many steps of the way at this point. I want to be clear about something. That's one thing that they actually were honest about from the start. Right at the start, when they said they were going to start a Bitcoin reserve, a strategic reserve, they said it was going to be at no cost to the taxpayers. That means that they are not buying any. They're not just fucking spending it out of, that's all there is to it. If it's not coming from taxpayers, they're not buying any. The type of Bitcoin they're going to be collecting is when they seize it from certain things, or when they acquire it other ways. They never once said they were going to buy it. As far as I'm concerned, they always said that they weren't going to. But now people are upset that got re-announced right at all-time highs. So yeah, obviously, the media has a hand in placing well-placed articles explaining the price action. But guys, that we were never lied to about that one. That's one thing that they really didn't lie about. What else can we look at? Troll is another one I wanted to look at. So far, I mean, This was a massive move to the upside, so if we lose this support, yeah, it's possible we take quite a tumble. At this point, so far, Troll has found support right where I was hoping it would on the daily chart. We're basically holding the Stuber fib. We never even wicked below the higher low, right? Because we had a high, higher high. Lowest point between the two is right here around 13 cents. And technically, well, we never did lose that level. So at this point, we're still holding the uptrend on the daily. The trend master actually shows support a little bit lower yet. I would say even closer to 10 cents. So yeah, all of these meme coins, they're very volatile. Obviously, if you're trading this kind of thing, obviously be responsible. Pay attention to just how volatile they are, especially if you're going to use leverage, because guys, this was like a 50% correction. Even though it doesn't look like there was a serious correction, and a lot of people are saying that, oh, Troll is so overpriced because it pumped, like it needs to pull back. It got cut in half. It doesn't look like it on the chart, but it got cut in half already. So it did pull back significantly. And, you know, being that we're at daily structure here, as long as we hold that 13 cents, it's still in a beautiful uptrend. Obviously, if that breaks, well, it's possible we start dropping to some seriously lower levels, so we'll have to see what happens there. This is another one. I mentioned this in the Micro Gems chat at the time. I think it was about a $2 million market cap. But basically, I had a fib outlined something like this. And we came down to that purple box, filled it, hit the 886, and basically, well, 190% pump to the upside since then, basically. Another thing I pointed out in that chat was on the 4 hour, something that was lining up with that was the Trendmaster, right? And guys, on low cap coins, the Trendmaster, that strategy of noticing when you get higher buy signals, lower sell signals, that sort of thing, especially on low cap newer coins, when you get that for like the first time, for example, so often you get very nice moves to the upside. Same with you know, one thing to consider is getting these signals on daily charts. You know, whenever we get down to the support, we're seeing daily buy signals on this. Yeah, we're still obviously in a big range. It could absolutely nuke to zero for all I know at this point, but so far off that bounce, it was nice. If you caught that in the Micro Gems chat, you know, never a bad idea to start taking profits and remove that risk. If, you know, since we went up almost 200%, you know, I was selling a little bit just to cover my costs, basically, right? But, you know, of course, when it comes to memers and low caps like that, you're hoping for the moonshot. I think I caught a 20x on it last time here. You're hoping for that moonshot, but understand that it's okay to take that risk off the table. But enough of the shitties. I did want to talk about this. That was before the stream, I believe, we were talking about this. The long to short ratio, you guys. This is on the MDX ALGO dashboard under charts. So this is basically, this right here is retail traders. And currently, retail traders are starting to be short heavy again, right? Oh, can I not draw? Oh, it did. It did. Never mind. But yeah, retail is starting to short a little heavier, and yeah, just not longing as much, right? Whereas the top traders here are starting to long more, whereas they're shorting less, right? Generally speaking, on this whole trend here, right? The entire bear market, we saw that retail was long heavy that whole way down, right? And when that ended up flipping and we saw retail shorting a lot more, that's been our entire bull market, basically. So at this point, it's not super obvious right now because we obviously just got this cross here. But if retail can stay short heavy here, I mean, that's just fuel for us to go higher. If we can create something like this again, with retail shorting heavily, thinking that this run is over, wanting to try and really just trying to do the opposite of catching a knife, right? Just hoping for those bragging rights that, oh, I shorted the top even though there was no structure there, supporting that safe decision. You know, as long as they start shorting again, we are going to go higher. As soon as people think we're overvalued, you know, that's when you get blindsided. Solana, I really think, I was saying this in my last, I don't know, probably for the last month or so, that I really thought that Solana would be on its way to 250 US dollars again, at least, you know, but being that Bitcoin's back at all-time highs, Ethereum is right at all-time highs. I see no reason why Solana wouldn't be next in line to end up testing at least, you know, the 786 comes at us at about 250 US dollars. The 886 is around 275 US dollars. All-time high here around 295. I thought it hit over 300. Was that might have been on some other exchanges, or it might have been the previous cycle or whatever, but basically 300 US dollars. So really at this point, I've just been assuming that Solana is going to be one of the next ones to end up testing macro resistance. Also bringing up the Trendmaster. Notice what, just like what I was talking about earlier, we now have a higher buy signal, right? Higher sell signal, higher buy signal. And so far, that's basically where we found support, right? Right on our pink line here. That's our 4-hour buy trend. So yeah, I still think the market looks good, you guys. Obviously I can be blindsided just like the next guy, but at this point, I don't think it looks like there's no red flags really jumping out at me, other than the fact that, yeah, we obviously got this swing fail, but we haven't lost any macro structure yet. So I'm just not too worried yet. I'm actually not worried at all. Sorry, let me catch up on the chat now, finally. Hype, the 4 hours in the daily. I guess I already looked at hype on the 4 hour. The daily would basically be the same. ARC on LBank. I will check out ARC. Looking to enter a swing long from the very lows, so I'm looking at high time frames for regions to enter and lower time frames for actual entries. I'm already in a position, nearly bailed on it with this pullback, but as its long-term swing, I let it get a bit underwater, which I hope I don't regret. It has a lot of potential if it recovers. I will check out ARC for you. I'm just going to go to whatever chart that I want. I know you're trading on LBank or whatever, but it should be the same chart, I'm assuming. Ooh, let's zoom right in. So you're thinking longer time frame swing. First thing I'm going to do, try and find some sort of a random trend line. We have this potential falling wedge here. I would like to see this breakout. I see what you're going for, actually, you know what? There's some very funny, very small structure there that I'll show you in a sec. But yeah, this is obviously what I would be hoping for. The fact that we have, you know, more than 3 exact touch points. I consider this one touch point because it's all one cluster. But we have 3 exact touch points on my diagonal trend line. That's one of my prerequisites, basically, for even acknowledging a breakout of a trend line. I need 3 exact touch points, and we do have that there. So if we could see the price do one of these and flip that resistance into support, I think that would be absolutely beautiful for a nice large move, because that's some very tightly coiled up price action that could get quite explosive. If I really want to get into it here, and I do, notice that we had this low here, and we did set a slightly lower low. We set a swing fail there, but it was a lower low, and that would confirm this as our lower high on the trend, and we obviously broke that. So at this point, even if we pull back a little bit, we're currently basically trading right at the 786, right? This is on the 4 hour. So, I mean, technically it's at support. I know nothing of the project. I don't know anything about fundamentals, nothing like that. But just from a structural point of view, that does look like a decent swing level. Now, if I was looking at a swing trade, I would be basically starting a position where we are, but laddering in case we drop lower. Just so that I could bring my average entry down, basically. Because if I get all three of my entries, I try and get my average entry closer to that double bottom territory. Especially on a swing position, I'd probably be doing 20%, 20%, 30, 30 to really help drag that entry down a little bit to soften the blow. But to each their own, right? That's just how I like to ladder in often. But yeah, that's potentially a nice support level. Trendmaster, we have a buy signal. We are struggling to stay above it. It is significantly lower. One thing that I like, technically, and I know everyone has their own way of looking at indicators, but the fact that we had a higher sell signal here, I take the next buy signal fairly serious just because, but that being said, it could have played out already, I suppose. But that would have been a beautiful buy signal technically. So yeah, maybe that's already played out. I don't want to give that too much credit right now. But as far as basic market structure, I think it's in a decent place here. Let's bring up... yeah, charting tools. So we have supply up here. We are currently right at a demand zone as well, right? That demand zone goes right down to the 786 basically perfectly. So yeah, to find support here, it makes sense to me. As long as nothing spooks the market and nothing is going horribly wrong with the project, for example. I can see reasoning for that. Troll done so well. Troll did do beautiful. I don't know how many of you guys would have been in my streams when I know I was at one point I was talking about this Stuber fib on Troll. And what did it do? I think a 20x or so. I'm still in a 10x long on Troll from 9 cents. But I was mostly spot buying down here. I have added to my spot collection at this support box here. But yeah, we went up about 23x off that 886. Huge. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense that it would pull back drastically, right? But the fact that it's even consolidating so well, right? So many meme coins just love to absolutely go straight up and straight down. So I hope this is actually organic. The thing is, I know the community is very active on social media. I know there's constantly more wallets being added. It seems like they're doing a good job, but again, I'm not a fundamentals guy, but I am up drastically on that, so I don't really care if it does drop. I mean, I have sold some, I added back in on this, got some extra coins for free. I've taken some profits. I have no concerns about my entry on that one at this point. Link, yes, I can check out Link. Ooh, I like where it found support there. That being said, it may have technically played out already, right? That's the thing. It doesn't really look like it, but we did come down to the 786 and we did test the 0.5 fib on the very next candle. So technically the first target's already been hit there, but yeah, as long as the uptrend's going to hold, I mean, I love where it did find support there. The Trendmaster indicator lining up with that as well, right? And that is a nice higher buy signal as well. So even though this could have obviously played out already, we got a beautiful pump since that closed right around $19, I believe. Yeah, we ended up pumping 30% since then. So, you know, eventually maybe we pull back. But if we do see a pullback, let's say we get a new sell signal here on the 4 hour, for example, that's where I would be thinking, you know, since we have a higher buy signal, I would be willing to pull a fib, something like this. And I would be looking for support down in this level here if we pull back down there, right? I'm not saying that I'm shorting this and expecting it to go down to this. This is just one of those situations. If we end up rolling over and pulling back, I wouldn't be bearish. I would be looking at getting bullish down here because we have an obvious uptrend still. Let's check some shorter time frames. I'll take a look at the 5-minute. So technically, much like Bitcoin, right, it never actually had a Stuber fib here on the 5-minute, because there was this wasn't actually a lower high because we never broke this low here. But technically, we did still find support at the 786. So it can still work out, right? The 786, 886 fibs, they get respected all the time. Just as far as an actual Stuber fib, the thing is, I like to have that structure break that's favoring the momentum of the setup, just thinking that it can run further, basically. But there's nothing wrong with where we ended up finding support there either. That's beautiful. Have this buy signal so far. If we do end up pumping, just be a little bit cautious. Resistance would kind of start back around $23.70. So if you're in any long positions, I would be looking at taking some profits at that level. Either that or currently on the 5-minute, again, I would be, for more confidence, I would be looking for the buy signals to start trending to the upside again. And at that point, like, that's what I was doing on Ethereum. Like I said, we just kept printing higher buy signals, and I was scalping the shit out of Ethereum because it was just such a beautiful trend. And the trend is your friend until it's not, and then it broke, and then whatever, out of most of my positions, basically. So I would love to see that happen on Link again as well. Just like most things right now, right? All of us in here have these indicators. Trendmaster, I mean, everyone likes their own, but this is my favorite. There's a StuTube trading preset, so if you want yours to look like mine, that is the one. But yeah, that's how I use it. And guys, that's not just that indicator. That's another thing I want to point out, is that's how I look at a lot of indicators, is not so much each individual signal, but how the trend of those signals are actually playing out, right? Same with these W's here, right? I mean, if you wanted to look at those instead, or the P's or whatever, I mean, same thing, right? We have this yellow P here, lower P, and that was just a sign that it was still trending to the downside, and we continued dumping, right? Blue W, lower blue W, still trending to the downside, right? So it's not so much, it's just the trend master. I mean, those are trend master signals as well. But that's just kind of how I look at most indicators when I'm looking at signals, just seeing which way they're trending. Because otherwise, you might just still be fighting the trend, right? Like this bullish one, for example, I'm not considering that all too important on its own, even though, yeah, we got a nice little bounce there, but it was short-lived. But it was just kind of a signal on its own. All of these, right? They're just lower trending bull divergences. I would rather, if I'm trying to long it, I mean, you're fighting the trend. Even though they're bullish divergences, they're still trending to the downside. They're happening lower and lower rather than higher and higher, where you can buy those instead, right? Plumbus, still expecting higher overall, just some fuckery in between. I agree 100%. Is this project only 95K market cap, or is that another ARC? Good question. Must be a different ARC. This one is much bigger. Cheers for that, Stu. Oh, thank you. Cheers to you. Yeah, it must be a different ARC. There's probably a few. I'm going to close a quarter of that Bitcoin position a little bit early right now, just in case we don't quite hit that 0.5 fib, just because we're starting to struggle a little bit. I think we can go higher. It's just I want to protect myself a little bit. Sorry, just checking on a few positions. Yeah. What's Solana up to? What is everyone's coin of choice, by the way, as far as leverage trading? Are most of you guys just trading Bitcoin? Like, I myself, usually I prefer trading Bitcoin and mostly only Bitcoin, but just because of where we're at in this stage of the market cycle, I've been mostly trading Ethereum, and other than that, Solana. Except today, like I said, I did end up taking that swing fail just because I happened to see it happening and figured why not. But yeah, I'm just curious what everybody trades and what time frames. It's always nice to see what everyone feels. AVAX, oh, interesting. I'll take a look at AVAX actually. I haven't looked at that one in a while. Ooh, here we actually technically had this. So we had low, lower low, lower high, technically broke it. Did this get invalidated? It did not. You would have got, for one, I guess it would have already played out back here. You would have got your, well, frick, it tested the 786, the 0.5, the 786, 886, the 0.5, 786, 886, 1, getting close to the 0.5. So technically this range is pretty choppy already. It hasn't really, I would really like to see it get back above this level around 24, 27. Because just at this point, I do have my concerns that we have this low, slightly lower low, confirmed lower high. So I would really like to see us break that. Trendmaster indicator, and obviously this is just the 5 minute, right? Trendmaster, we have a buy signal. I would love to see that shoot us right back up to our seller resistance, right? If that happens, if we do start climbing and you're in longs or whatever, I would start to look for resistance right around that 25.37, somewhere in there. That's if we get a good bounce from here. Because even at this point, sorry, I'm actually going to make a resistance box there just so it's on my radar. It's also very possible that we see something like this, right? We technically could have resistance right around here starting at about $24. That's on the lower time frame, obviously, but something worth noting there. I want to zoom out to the 4 hour. 4 hour still looks great. One thing interesting, I think this Stuber played out. Technically it has hit the first target. Guys, that just goes to show how often these setups happen, right? I know this is Captain Hindsight. It's already happened. It's not useful to us at this point other than educational purposes, but we had this high, higher high. This is the confirmed higher low between the two. Here's our bearish signal. Most people start shorting there, get wrecked when we bounce, when they should be, even though they're right on the idea that there is a trade setup to the short side. What often happens is we break structure and then we retest resistance, right? Just like the opposite for bullish setups. I more so want those retests to get into those entries, but so many people just like to be breakout traders without an actual breakout strategy with extra confluence. The market loves chopping around more than it does straight moves, right? Straight vertical or straight down. Usually we're chopping around, we break structure, we retest structure, we break structure, we retest other structure. That's more natural, and a lot of people have a hard time with that, but this is a perfect example. Even though I'm by no means bearish, there was technically a bearish setup here because we lost that structure, right? That being said, we've obviously broken some bullish structure down here. We also have the Trendmaster with a higher trending buy signal up here. So at that point, I would be favoring the upside still. And in that case, I would be interested in pulling a bullish fib, something like this. And on the 4 hour, that would give us support starting around $21.80, call it. Yeah. So if we do end up pulling back a little bit further with AVAX, I don't think it's anything to worry about. I think we're just retesting support of the bigger range, basically. I would feel a lot better about this setup if the price would have broken above this high. You know, if this would have went up here and then came back, I would have felt a lot better about that because we'd have the structure lining up with it more so as well. But being we have the MDX Trendmaster confluence with higher trending buy signals, I'm willing to cut this one some slack. And I do think that, you know, if the bulls are going to remain in charge here, I think that we see support step in if we do end up dropping down to this level. AI charting tools, same thing, right? We're just kind of building support along the way. Love to see it. Overlapping support boxes or demand zones here, right? We have the overlapping green boxes, just showing a ton of strength there, basically between $20.90 to $20.40. Huge support there. So again, like most things, done a fantastic job on its way up, building support below. That's the great thing about when things chop around like this, right? They're forming structure, they're building support on the way up rather than just, you know, going straight up and then straight back down the same amount. At least there's some support there to soften the blow and provide support. I really should have taken that Stuber long on Ethereum. That was dumb. Why didn't I? Oh well. Yeah, Rocket Man. Exactly right. On the Trendmaster, we did get that buy signal, but again, that lower buy signal. The thing is, there's been so much time. Like, it's very possible that this buy signal, even if they're going to continue trending to the downside, a lower sell signal could be way up here, right? So I agree. There's concerns there that things, that's just basically where I had mentioned that my long on Bitcoin, especially on this swing fail here, it's a small position just because I think it is higher risk, being we never had any sort of structure break to the upside. But I would love to start longing things more aggressively again when the buy signals start trending to the upside, specifically Ethereum and Solana. But yeah, when we start printing those higher trending buy signals on the 5-minute again, that's where I'm going to start longing more aggressively. Playing the trend. Ooh, Bonk. I'll check out Bonk. Is Bonk not on BloFin? Or does it have a different name with numbers and shit? Oh, whatever. Or wait, that wasn't. Let's go spot. Good enough. Spot Bybit. That works. What do we got here? Trendmaster indicator. We have printed a lower sell signal. That looks rough for Bonk, in my opinion. Being that's on the 4-hour. That's a rough signal. I'm not gonna lie. I want to check the daily. Like, Bonk has performed well. That's the thing. We do have higher trending buy signals on the daily. That's pretty huge. But that being said, that's obviously a longer time frame. And that means that our fib would look something like this. So there's still a fairly decent drop down to support. We obviously don't have to get down to those levels, but that's where I would start to hope that the bulls step back in to protect support there. Like I said, higher trending buy signals. So even if we print a sell signal here, basically as long as we stay above this level here, things still look good for Bonk on the longer time frames. But yeah, on the 4-hour, it starts to look a little dicey. If we invalidate this right away, we just break above that lower sell signal, especially where it pivoted from there. If we can break above that, then I start to feel a little better about things. It just looks like we're invalidating that resistance at that point. Very possible that happens. You know, if we see something like this where we get above that and flip that into support kind of a thing, yeah, that would look absolutely fantastic. Just as it stands right now, this does give me a little bit of concern. Let's check out the 5-minute. Actually still trending to the downside. Even the 5-minute, this is the structure I'd be looking at basically. There's our low. We set a lower low. Therefore, our lower high is basically the top of this range, right? It's actually right about there. Where are we currently? I can tell you that we're in, well, we just tested the 786. So if this micro downtrend is going to continue on the 5-minute, they might have a hard time going any higher than this basically. I'm just not really in the shorting mood, but that 4-hour does look a little concerning, and to see that the 5-minute hasn't invalidated the downtrend yet, I would hold off on longs on that one for now personally. Till we either break the downtrend, like even a buy signal right now, yeah, that's rough. I'd really like to see us get back above that 4-hour level I was talking about. Bitcoin trying to hold on to that buy support. Even though it's a lower buy signal, it's trying to hold on to it. I would love to see this swing fail turn into something nice. Preferably blast right back to all-time highs. That would be just fantastic. Ooh, actually, I want to check this out. Because I know, Adrian, we had talked about this, you know, losing that level. Technically, we lost that level, so, you know, a potential short coming up like that. But let's go high, higher high. If we pull something like this. Well, I guess that would be the same as on the 5-minute, how I had it, right? That would be the exact same fib pull, so I guess I didn't have to do that on the 4-hour as well, but just to show that it lines up, I guess. Again, we came down into that swing fail territory, basically filled that pocket perfectly, and so far we're holding it as support. But that being said, Bitcoin did something similar to that right here, right? Where it did technically hold that swing fail zone. Never broke the 115. But it was still technically, we lost the higher low, right? So the bounce was short-lived. So it's very possible we see something like that here too. But just being that the bigger structure is actually from back here, I'm not as worried about that as maybe I should be, but just that this is the cleanest break I see, right? The fact that it's high, higher high. There's no random structure going along with it. It's just simply a high, a higher high. Here's our higher low. So as long as we hold above this, things still look okay. But yeah, it's absolutely possible we do something like this. You know, bounce around a little bit, as crypto is known to do. Call it manipulation, as the people like to call it. What is hype doing on the shorter time frames? Let's take a peek. 5-minute for hype. Well, I can tell you right now, there was already a beautiful Stuber fib that I obviously missed, but we had same thing, right? Low, lower low, lower high. We broke that. Where did we pull back to? Would you look at that? Would you just look at it? thing of beauty. So it already played out once, always, actually twice, because here we got TP1, TP2, and here we got TP1 already. So I prefer to play them on the first attempt, but it's great to see that that support is strong enough that it's even working out a second time so far, right? So yeah, like I said, I don't think the market's in too bad of a spot right now. I think it's actually in quite a beautiful spot, because even if we do pull back, like I said, everything has built structure along the way. A pullback would be very healthy, in my opinion. So looking pretty good, in my opinion. And like I said, the fact that retail is starting to short a little bit more again, starting to get the panic that, oh no, we didn't just break out and go straight up. The world is over. My crypto world is over. That's what we want to see. That is what we want to see. What else? What else? Oh yeah, Hype is looking good. Solana's looking good. Ethereum's looking good. Bonk is meh. Bitcoin dominance looking great. Like, to me, this just looks like a bear flag consolidating below resistance. Would love to see that. Would like some lower entries, not ideal for my spot, but would like to catch some juicy entries. I know what you mean. I have actually Trolls one. I have very strong similar feelings to that. It's like, man, I really want it to go lower so I can just load the hell up on this, but at the same time, I don't know if I want a meme coin to lose structure, because that'll scare me because of what often happens to meme coins. So, you know, mixed feelings. And even Ethereum and stuff like that. Yeah, lower entries would be great. Like, if we could, for example, pull Bitcoin back to the Stuber entries, but I think I would, there's enough entries to be made if we just start trending to the upside, and there's an obvious uptrend that we can play, just buying the dips repeatedly, just like the last few days. Start trending that way again. I mean, that was easy. It was fun. So I want to see this thing start printing like that again. It was such an easy trend with this indicator. It was absolutely phenomenal. When it starts trending like that, you can just keep trading it, basically. And then eventually, when you lose the trend of higher trending buy signals, or if you're shorting, when you lose that trend of lower trending sell signals, it's often just a warning that things might be reversing, right? Epic, by chance, would that be on TradingView? Or is that more of a DEX screener? No. Oh, it's even got leverage pairs. Whoa, that is quite the wick. I have no idea what the trading volume or the liquidity is like in this, but that's quite the wick. Honestly, what I would love to see would be this do something like this and start closing green candles right along the bottom of this, just basically filling the wick. I think there could be some nice long opportunities there with at least a tight invalidation, right? That's the 5-minute. Trendmaster looks like we might print a buy signal, obviously a lower buy signal. Let's take a look at the 4-hour, because this is something I don't know if I've ever looked at. Ooh. I don't know if there's an older chart than this or not, but the fact that it is technically in price discovery, right? Because we broke this high back here. If that is the all-time highs, I could be wrong on that. Even the fact that we're not holding above it, not super worried about that. In fact, I would say if anything, oh man, mixed feelings right now. Technically, we set a lower low, right? Because this is our high, higher high, confirmed higher low. We did lose that, although it was just a swing fail at this time. It's worth noting that that could count as a lower low is all. But if not, that just could be because of low liquidity, low volume, whatever. I have no idea. But the micro downtrend was broken, right? The fact that we had this low, lower high, we broke that. And where are we trading currently? Well, we came down, wicked to the 886 almost perfectly. Slightly below. Back to our swing fail level as well. So, I mean, yeah, it's possible it finds support here. If it doesn't, if this gets invalidated, then I mean, we're probably just retracing the rest of this move. In which case I would, yeah, I don't really want to, the fact, okay, actually that's nice to see. For one, even this sell signal, it printed late, right? It printed after the majority of the dump had happened already, but it would have been fighting the trend, right? It's a higher sell signal. Just like back here, a higher sell signal. Now we have a higher buy signal. So this fib pull, I do consider that valid, just based on using the trend master as confluence there. So far, I love where it found support. But yeah, if it ends up losing that, let's say $1, I mean, the 115 is right around $1.55. If we invalidate that, then I have a feeling we're, pulling a much bigger fib. And at that point, we could be going back down to like $1.24 or $1 kind of a thing. But we'll have to see. So far, we're still holding that uptrend, right? As long as we don't lose this buy signal, basically, where we pivoted for that guy. As long as we're holding above that, it's a beautiful trend. Something like that. Just want to remove a few things, clean this up a little bit. Those would be kind of the few support levels that I'd be watching at this point, basically. For Epic. SEI may be ready for a breakout. Let's check it, brother. On the 4 hour, technically a lower buy signal. We did break the lower sell signal, though. We did technically get above it a little bit. So, mixed signals there. Let's go straight structure. I mean, it makes sense that we saw a bit of a rejection here. This would have been our higher low, right? High, higher low. We lose that. Where do we end up struggling with resistance a little bit? Right at the 786. Very natural price action there, actually. That might be all it has, right? Being things are bullish right now, maybe it only does get to the 0.5 fib, but it's still very possible it reaches a little bit lower there. Oh, look at that. Just a beautiful, beautiful bounce off that Stuber fib bottom. Such a beautiful reversal, 140% since that guy. Obviously a lot of Captain Hindsight there, but just looking at structure for what it is, we ended up breaking that lower high on the micro trend. Low, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, broken, came back to the 786, rocket ship. Classic. The daily. Still, higher buy signal on the daily. love to see that. And we are still holding that support, right? We did drop below it very, very briefly and got right back above it. So I don't know, that still looks beautiful to me. If on the 4 hour, looking at the immediate trend, we would have just our current upswing. We'd have structure something like this. So as long as we can hold support here, basically anywhere between 31 cents and, well, 31.3 cents, we'll call it, down to 28.5 cents. As long as we hold support above there, things are looking great, even on just on the current 4 hour swing. If we end up losing that, then it's possible we're going from this low here. Which, again, it's one of those things that as soon as one gets invalidated, all of a sudden we're in another potential one just because of how much structure we've built. So unfortunately, that is a little bit messy. Depends if you want to swing at the micro trend or the actual bigger one here. But yeah, it doesn't look too bad. Like I said, especially on the daily with that trend master indicator, that's looking like a strong trend right now. So we do have support that lines up with that Stuber fib that we currently have pulled, right? Beautiful. So yeah, we obviously tested that potential bearish 786, but depending what the market's going to do, and being we have higher trending buy signals and everything, even if there is a bit of a pullback, I don't see it being long. I agree with you. I think this looks ready to break out. Actually, I want to... As always, I know not everybody is into diagonal trend lines. I just want to see if I can find anything obvious. Oh, yeah. So there we have our 3 perfect touch points, right? We did close above it, quickly dropped back below it. So a bit of a swing fail type of thing happening there. The fact that we already closed above, this could be the thing, just like I look at on horizontal resistance, guys, where when structure breaks, we often get that pullback. That could be what we're seeing here. It would have been nice if we just got a resist support flip and started closing support candles, something like that, and getting into a nice strong breakout pattern like that. But even the fact that we got 3 touch points, broke above this here, and are pulling back, I think as long as we kind of hold this structure here, I think things are looking okay, right? And that's about that 26 cents level. I think as long as we're above that, it's just looking like a great trend still. Oh, that's the diagonal you were looking at. Nice. Yeah, and again, I know not everyone loves diagonals. I stopped using them as much, but last cycle I nailed diagonal trend lines. I loved playing wedges. Stock Poker is not in here, but he would vouch for that. I used to love looking at trend lines like that. Now I more so prefer fibs. They happen a lot more, and all that sort of good stuff. But yeah, as long as there's at least 3 touch points, I'll consider them valid breakouts. If they're not 3 perfect touch points, like let's say this third one would have went something like that, I would have considered that pattern all messed up, and I would have started looking for a new trend line to get 3 touch points basically before breaking out. But to each their own. Everyone has their own trading strategies and their own execution on those trade strategies, right? So it's important to know, don't just take what I'm saying and form a strategy and start trading on it without doing any actual back testing. Anytime you're going to throw any actual money on positions, understand that back testing is your best friend, right? That's the this replay feature here on TradingView. Very valuable. You can go back to a random spot in the charts. You know nothing about the fundamentals. You know absolutely nothing. You just look at chart structure, or indicators, whatever. Write out your set of rules and then take a journal. And yeah, it's a little bit of homework. It doesn't sound sexy. I used to do several hours a week of back testing. Like, that's how I kind of came up with the Stuber fib strategy. That's how I came up with that overextended bearish divergences, overextended bullish divergence, double top and double bottom setups. That's all through just vigorous back testing and just having a set of rules and seeing how often they play out, right? So anytime you're looking at trading, even if you're trading someone else's strategy, especially if you're trading someone else's strategy, make sure you're looking at it correctly. Do some back testing. Make sure that it works for you, because we could have the same trend lines, the same fibs, the same indicators, absolutely everything the same. And I promise you we would trade this market completely different. Actually, there's a very select few people that would trade very similar to me. Some of you guys in here right now. Bitcoin, what are you up to on the 5 minute? Oh, that is the old one I had pulled there. This is the one that I had for my swing fail setup. Can I just reload this? That might be easier. Get my chart back to how it was. BloFin and 5 minute. There we are. Come on, bulls. Step in. Let's get that bull run going. Don't tease us like that. Ethereum, same thing, still holding that buy signal at least. Solana, same thing. Yeah, a lot of things looking. Let's check this out. You guys want to talk microstructure? Let's check this out right here. High, higher high, higher low. Look at that range. Look at that range. Now, obviously, you're not looking at trading ranges this small, but just to demonstrate how much you see channels like this form and how often those fibs get respected, just an obvious reaction off those, right? So, obviously, there's smaller ranges inside bigger ranges and bigger ranges and bigger ranges, etc., etc., and not all of them are going to be what I would consider playable. But that being said, that's the beautiful thing about market structure, is it doesn't really matter, right? Whatever you prefer. I mean, if you want bigger trades, if you want bigger swing positions, you pull bigger ranges, but the structure works the same. Generally speaking, I treat the 1 minute, 5 minute, hourly, 4 hourly, daily, weekly all the same, because structure is structure. That's also why I have a bad habit of not saying what price levels I'm looking at, is because honestly, when I look at a chart, I usually don't even look at the price of things, because I think that it can be emotionally blinding. I personally don't look at the price of things until I'm actually setting positions, so I know what the actual numbers are supposed to be. But when I'm actually analyzing, I don't even consider the numbers. I am just straight up looking at the market structure, and from there, get into it. Because a lot of people will say, oh, Bitcoin can never hit under $100,000 again. Based on fucking what? Like, that's just a statement based on numbers, but that's, there's not necessarily any structure supporting that claim. Yeah, sure, we might not trade under that again, but that's just an emotional, just saying it based off nothing. So that's why I don't like looking at numbers, you guys, other than when setting the entries, because the structure just matters so much more. But yeah, how are you guys all feeling about the market? Everyone super excited? Anybody terrified? Anybody confidently bearish or confidently bullish right now? I would say with Bitcoin, I'm currently cautiously bullish. With altcoins, I'm fairly confidently bullish right now. Obviously, that could blindside me too, but that's just how I feel, because I feel like even if, let's just say, what if Bitcoin did top out yesterday for the cycle? I don't think it has, but it's possible, right? And if that happened, I still think altcoins like Solana, for example, that hasn't tested its macro resistance again. Not that it has to, but I really have a feeling that a lot of altcoins would still get their finale run, their final hurrah in the market before the actual bear market. And a big sign of that, I guess, would be if Bitcoin dominance starts skyrocketing again with the price of Bitcoin going down. That would be a little bit alarming. But with the Bitcoin dominance dropping, with the price being fairly healthy, that is a beautiful divergence to have in the market right now. Confidently bullish on the short term for alts. I mean, when things start trending to the upside again, like I said, Trendmaster starts trending again, stuff like that, yeah, then I'll be confident for the short term. But I'm more so just talking about where we're at in this cycle in general, more so the mid to long term. Actually, I should say midterm, because I really do think this is the final stage of the market cycle. I don't think it's going to last forever, obviously. I feel like by the end of this year, things are going to be pretty close to over. Happy to be wrong about that. I could see Bitcoin topping in December and altcoins topping like mid to end January. Again, could be very wrong about that. If something spooks the market, maybe everything dumps together. I know typically that's what happens, but at different stages of the cycle, sometimes it happens a little bit differently. Like my first cycle was basically just to go back and make fun of myself a little bit. When I started trading crypto was about right here. Right about there looks right. And that being said, although Bitcoin started dumping basically immediately within a week of me getting into crypto, altcoins still did very well I know it was at least half of January. I remember that's when XRP, I think I rode from 70 cents to $3.50 or something like that. The last time XRP actually hit all-time highs. That was in January, I'm pretty sure. Whereas Bitcoin, it did top out closer to Christmas. I think just like a week or so before Christmas, if I remember correctly. December 18th sounds about right. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. So again, not that it has to happen the same, but the last two cycles, altcoins kind of had their finale run after Bitcoin was done. So I would not be surprised to see the same thing happen. Not that I think Bitcoin is done at this point, but something worth considering. We start losing the midterm uptrend, then I start to have to revisit those thoughts that it's possible that it's over. It would be more so, again, let's say the price does something like this. What I would be really hoping for is a retrace up there. And when we got up there, it's not so much that I would necessarily be bearish, but I would be cautiously bearish, much like what I was a couple of months ago, where I was vocally very bearish, but mostly just because we were at resistance, right? Being we had broke our higher low trend and then coming back up to macro resistance. I'm going to treat it the exact same if that happens again. Because at that point, the risk, it just makes more sense to be a seller at resistance if you've broken important support. I would rather be a seller at that retest rather than FOMOing long into resistance, right? I want to be a seller at resistance. I want to be a buyer at support, basically. Everybody knows that, but when it comes time to actually do it, it's very hard to do. But Yeah. Anyways, my friends, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So hopefully you guys found this stream useful or entertaining, or hopefully both. Also, those of you who are watching this on my YouTube channel a little later, if you want access to the MDX Algo indicators, there's a 10% discount link in the description down below. And with that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.